Hey everyone, welcome to the PFF Betting Podcast. I am your host, Kendall Valenzuela, joined by PFF data scientist Ben Brown, as always. And today we are breaking down all of our favorite NFL player props for Week 14, so let's get into it. Football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's just that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet $1 on any team to score and win $100 in free bets if they score. You score with promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Ben, Week 14, I'm excited. What people are going to find out about you and I is that we love our quarterback props, and I think that is the perfect place to start today, breaking down Week 14. So let's start. You like Washington football team quarterback Taylor Heineke. You like his under 0.5 interceptions. I think that's a perfect way to start this podcast today.
Yeah, it's going to be a sweat. I mean, anytime you get into, the interception props, obviously they hinge on one particular play. I know our friend Eric Eager did some research in the offseason. It is much better if you're trying to predict interceptions to use turnover-worthy plays. A guy that, hasn't really been all that bad in a turnover-worthy play perspective, Taylor Heineke. I know a lot of people think of him as kind of this journeyman quarterback sort of situation, but he's played really well. I think he's the third best PFF passing quarterback over the last 4 weeks. And he's kind of carried them. And I think the Dallas Cowboys defense, big play dependent, has actually had a high degree of turnover-worthy plays turned into interceptions. I think they're at the third highest rate in the NFL at doing that. So I think there is some regression/variance rolled in there. And I think that, Taylor Heineke at a plus price is probably a little bit too good to ignore here on Sunday. So it's a great starting spot for us to kind of get hot here, I think. For sure.
I know, it's a great start. I think this game is interesting too, because it's really, for the Washington football team, it's an all or nothing NFC East matchup, right? Because realistically, it's crazy to even say Taylor Heineke needs to win this game for a playoff picture perspective, but they need to win outright to keep their division hopes at least alive.
Right. And I mean, they obviously would benefit greatly if they were actually able to, pull off the victory outright. Cause that's, they have, 54% playoff chance right now. Obviously that swings pretty heavily to the downside, gets closer to 30% if they lose this game. So I think they're going to play pretty well here. I do think it's going to be a little bit slower of an offensive game in general. Okay. 48 points is kind of, the game total. PFF's betting model definitely leans under on that. We also do really like Washington to cover. So if both those events happen, I think it's going to be because Taylor Heineke plays a pretty clean football game and there isn't any interceptions. So at the plus price, I think it's a good spot to be in. That's for sure. So
yeah, the plus price is awesome. Well, I want to stick with this game. I want to stick with the Cowboys and Washington football team, and I want to talk about Antonio Gibson. Yes. Ben, I don't know. I think right now, Antonio Gibson his rushing yards prop is set at 66.5. And I still feel like I kind of like this over, but I think the key here, Ben, is to monitor that J.D. McKissic situation, because he was still questionable this week with a concussion, right? So we really, and at the time of filming this, we don't know. But I want to focus then more on the Dallas Cowboys, because over their last 3 games, the Cowboys have allowed on average 140.7, so 141 rushing yards per game, right? And so I think if you monitor the situation with McKissic, Gibson's rushing yards total closed last week around 71.5, and he finished with 88. So I think the spot here is really nice, and that was against Las Vegas. So to me, I want to grab it. I might still grab this anyway at 66 and a half, because Dallas's offense, in general, in the last couple weeks, they really haven't been perfect. They haven't been great. They've been okay. So like you said, with what we think this game is going to come down to, in my mind, I don't think they're going to blow out in any means. They're not going to blow the Washington football team out. Right. So I don't think Taylor Heineke, I don't think that team is going to abandon the run so quickly. So I do think Antonio Gibson will have a shot at that 66 and a half to go over.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think, they're 20th in Dallas is 20th in our opponent adjusted run defense grade. So definitely bottom half of the league in that regard. And, Antonio Gibson has gotten over his rushing yardage prop number in the last 4 games, exceeded it, quite drastically in the last 2. Haven't really seen too big of an adjustment with you. So I definitely agree. If Jaden McKissick isn't playing, it doesn't seem like they're all that inclined to get Jarrett Patterson all that involved. So I do think, 67, 66 and a half receiving yards is a great spot to play Gibson's over based on, how we expect Washington to hopefully cover, if not win outright. So
hopefully, Taylor Heineke, we are needing you to cover this game, because both of these first props are really making sure that they do not get blown out by the Dallas Cowboys. Right. So I like those first 2. Let's move on then, and let's do Patrick Mahomes. I love this with you, Ben, because you are so what's the word? Positive. You think that Patrick Mahomes is going to go over 2.5 passing touchdowns. And I love that, because the Chiefs are really facing the Las Vegas Raiders. And you still I like it at the plus price of plus 136 right now. So over 2.5 passing touchdowns for Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean, obviously 10-point spread. PFF Greenline actually does lean a little bit in the Raiders direction. So hopefully it's a little bit more contested. We also like the under. So this definitely isn't my favorite play here, but I think at, plus price, if you already kind of bet maybe the Raiders and the under, this is a decent hedge. And there are, at least some scenarios where all 3 of them could potentially happen, especially if, the Raiders jump out to an early lead and Mahomes is playing catch up here. So he hasn't done it all that often. I think basically this last time he did do it was against this Raiders team when he threw for 5 interceptions. And that was kind of the start of this Raiders defensive demise. They were, a top 5 unit for a little while. Now they're 13th overall in our opponent adjusted defensive grade. So if they struggle to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be a really long day for that defense, and I do think he's probably going to go over it. But I lean more toward the under in this game, so this definitely isn't my favorite bet here of the weekend.
You're like, take this with a grain of salt. He might do this. Right. I feel like it's either going to be one or the other. We're either going to see 5 touchdowns Patrick Mahomes, or we're going to see zero passing touchdowns Patrick Mahomes. Right. So it'll be interesting.
Right. Yeah, and his price, 40% of the time he needs this to happen in order to break even. So it doesn't even have to be, coin flip differential to pay off here. So I don't mind it a little bit here.
I don't mind it. I'll tail you on that one and give you, if anyone has watched Ben and I. Before we started doing this podcast together, we did props before every Island game. And Ben was generous and kind enough to always support my anytime touchdown scores, which was just a blessing, because sometimes it would get a little rough. So I will tail you with the Patrick Mahomes 2.5 touchdowns by saying I do think Travis Kelce, I think they're going to have a connection on Sunday. And I think Travis Kelce is going to score a touchdown anytime. The price, obviously, it's not a sexy pick, Ben. I mean, we know that. And I'm trying to actually just manifest this for my fantasy team. I've got like a 50% shot to make the playoffs. So I really need Travis Kelce to get it together. But he didn't score week 10 against this Raiders team, but he still has big games against the Raiders. So I'm kind of going historical here. And the Raiders against tight ends, they've allowed the most tight end touchdowns this season at 0.8 per game. And no team, this is the kicker, no team allows more receiving yards to opposing tight ends than Las Vegas. I believe it's close to 68 yards per. So I think I'm going to go with Travis Kelce. It's easy, it's simple, but it's there.
Yeah, definitely. I actually agree 100%. I don't think this is going to be a Tyreek Hill type of game. Casey Hayward Jr., I think, should be able to limit him quite a bit. So if the Chiefs are successful offensively, I do think it's actually going to come through a pretty heavy target dose for Travis Kelce. So I'm backing you on this one. I like it quite a bit too. I think it's a perfect fit with Patrick Mahomes to go over 2.5. So
exactly. And we're staying in this game. You actually like another one, and it's a quarterback prop, not a rushing prop though. Right. So that's okay. We'll get to those later. But you like Derek Carr. You like Derek Carr under 0.5 interceptions on this one too.
Yeah, definitely. I'm riding the interceptions.
Riding the interceptions.
It's a little nerve wracking. I just think the Chiefs definitely have performed better than expected over the past 5 weeks, especially. But I don't think they're as good as kind of what their these box score stats indicate. Derek Carr has been much better in the turnover worthy play area and negative graded throw area than the majority of quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's going to have to play a pretty clean game here, obviously, if the Raiders are going to keep pace. So at plus 115, I do think him going under interceptions, I think is pretty worthwhile. Sprinkle on quarterback play as well. So
sprinkle, exactly. It's so tough when we bet these. Right. Under interceptions, because you're just holding your breath the whole game. Right. And it's just, sometimes I'm messaging you and I'm like, why? I know it's horrible. It's a horrible game to play, but I like it. I do like that one too. I like anytime you get an under quarterback interceptions prop with that kind of like plus price, I feel like it's hard to miss there. But moving on, you do another quarterback prop. We're just going to ride the quarterback props today, right, Ben. But you like Lamar Jackson to go under 230.5 passing yards. Right. And this game, Baltimore Ravens against the Cleveland Browns, I feel like that's weird in and of itself, because the real question, Ben, is if that Ravens loss to the Steelers was real life, first of all, or potentially a trend that we're going to see starting today. So this game, just in these games in general could get a little weird. So you like his under 230.5 passing yards. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, these teams basically just faced each other 2 weeks ago. Browns then got to go on a bye, and the Ravens obviously lost to the Steelers last week. So I think, 2 weeks to prepare. This could potentially turn into a lopsided affair. Basically, the spread opened with the Ravens slightly favored. It's now moved all the way up to the Browns -3, which getting up to that -3 number is pretty significant. So I do think that it is correct still too, right? And I think that the Browns could potentially roll here a little bit. If they do, I don't think Jackson's going to get anywhere close to his passing yards number. So I do have, 2 player props that I think are, correlated with that outcome, because that's kind of a spot that I do kind of want to press that here, given, the state of the Ravens, especially defensively. They're really banged up along the offensive line. They're also really banged up. So against, the second best defense in the NFL, I think it's going to be pretty slow moving for their offense here on Sunday. So interesting.
Well, you said that you have props that correlate with that, and the other one you have is Mark Andrews to go under 4.5 receptions. So that's wow, that's interesting. So you think that they're kind of going to be a slower Ravens team, and that they're not going to bounce back from that Steelers almost win?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a spot where the Browns, roll. So I would maybe even think about, a Browns alternate line or something like that. I just have a really hard time seeing the Ravens staying relevant in this game, given, the differential and rest situation. These teams just played each other 2 weeks ago, and now, Kevin Stefanski has extended time to game plan. Of course, we've seen the Ravens respond before, but I think, in preparation for them still getting into the playoffs, I think this could be a spot where people, probably are a little bit overvaluing them. So I do think that, Lamar Jackson under 230 passing yards and Mark Andrews under 4.5 receptions are both, pretty solid plays, especially with Andrews being, plus price basically on his reception prop. So.
Yeah. So you're basically you're punishing Mark Andrews for last week. You're just saying, you know what, they're gonna fade you. I'm gonna fade you. You should have caught that.
Right. That's all I can say. Right. I mean, I know that one was painful for me because I actually do a late week betting column, and I had the game to go under and the Ravens to win outright. So I didn't even need him to cover. And of course he dropped that in order, and it would have, both sides would have hit in that if he would have caught that. So it was a little bit of a sting. So maybe I am, taking it personal.
Yeah, you're like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it out on the Ravens. Right. I will say, I don't know. I have a feeling that the Ravens might win this game. I saw the spread is at 2+2.5, right? Yeah. Which kind of sucks.
So it's up to 3 now, even. So it's been moving all 100% in the Browns' direction, basically. All week, so.
Interesting.
So you
I don't know. I guess it's just a
market
feeling.
Yeah,
I guess it's just a feeling. I don't know. Baker Mayfield. Like, have you seen that graphic where it's the cycle of Baker Mayfield?
Yes.
And it's like get hurt, play. So I feel like this game is going to prove the doubters wrong.
Right.
I don't think he's going to do it, but that's just a feeling. I have literally nothing to back that up. But I like both of those. I do think it's going to be a closer game, like kind of like you're saying a little bit with in terms of scoring, like low scoring a little bit. So so we'll see. But your next one, I think this one might be my favorite one of the day, and that is Stefon Diggs over 6.5 receptions. And this game, just in general, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the Buffalo Bills is huge. That has to be one of the biggest games of the weekend, besides the Cardinals hosting the Rams. So it's just, and the Bills are underdogs, right? I think this is only the second time this season the Bills and Rams are underdogs. So this one will be fun. But Stefon Diggs over 6.5 receptions, I really like.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, like you said, Bills are 3.5 point underdogs. I think that kind of says something about the strength at which the market evaluates the Bills right now, because we have them basically as the 5th best team in the NFL. I think anybody you ask would have the Buccaneers at 1 or 2. So the fact that in Tampa Bay, Buffalo's basically if this was a neutral site, they'd be like less than 2 points basically worse than the Buccaneers. I do think that that is a little bit of a surprising fact based on, the Bills have really only beaten the Chiefs this year, and everyone else that they have beaten hasn't necessarily been all that great. So I don't know. I think we need to see a quality performance from the Bills offense, especially against a good defense, a defense that we have as a top 10 unit according to our opponent adjusted grades. I think the one way that they're going to be able to do that is targeting Stefon Diggs heavily. So could see, high passing volume. Obviously, if they're playing from behind, they're going to have even higher drastic run pass splits. So I think all of that kind of flows in the direction of Stefon Diggs having a game reminiscent of where he was at in 2020 with this Bills offense. So I like him to go over 6.5 quite a bit. I think I agree with you. It might be, one of the best betting opportunities here on the weekend. So
what do you see this game looking like too? That's kind of what I saw this, and I was like, when we were prepping for week 14, I'm like, oh, had this one circled since games ended last week. So what do you think this game comes down to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to if, Josh Allen can actually have some success against this Buccaneers defense. A lot of people have, the Bills is a really good unit. We have them as a top 5 unit, defensive unit, our opponent adjusted grade. So maybe they can slow down the Buccaneers, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. So I think, 14-3 probably is where we're looking as we get close to halftime. Hopefully the Bills have possession towards the end of the half. If they score there, 14-10, kind of still on pace to probably go under. But I think the second half could potentially turn into a little bit of a shootout. So whoever has the ball at the end, hopefully is the team that, ends up winning it outright. And we'll see if that's actually the Bills here. So.
Oh, that's going to be fun. That's going to be such a fun one to watch. I'm excited for that one. But I also have I feel like once we get going with these, Ben, we have to have a name for these, because I have like a long shot of the day.
Right.
And it's an anytime touchdown scorer. So I'm going to throw it at you, and I want to hear what you have to say. But it's Austin Walter anytime. And I'm just kind of saying why not, because I found him at plus 400. And I think so. New York Jets. And right now, Elijah Moore held out of practice on Wednesday and Thursday with that quad injury. And Tevin Coleman, I think, has been ruled out. He's not playing.
Yep,
yeah, he's not playing. So this is another one where you kind of have to watch the injury news. But if Elijah Moore is limited, not playing, whatever they decide, I think it's going to be Austin Walter anytime, because it's a feeling. It's just a long shot. So like, to me, if you watch Austin Walter, he could sneak in there anytime, and I think the price is great to grab him if it happens, if Elijah Moore is not there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, who else is there really, right? I mean,
they got, Johnson.
I guess Ty Johnson is the other option. He played 45% of the snaps last week, had what was it?
Yeah.
Not a ton of the carries actually, which
well,
is
and I feel like Johnson,
I feel like one rush attempt, right?
Yeah, so. And I feel like Johnson's like their big like third down back kind of guy. He's not. I don't think he's going to be that like. And it's going to be tough because of obviously who they're playing against. But I just think that they can maybe find a crack in the red zone once. And hopefully he sneaks in there. But this is all under the assumption that maybe they're going to really limit Elijah Moore.
Yeah. So Walter played 8 offensive snaps last week. ran a route on a high percentage of them, did have 2 targets. So, yeah, I mean, he could be a little bit more of that mixed in. Obviously, yeah, just him and Ty Johnson kind of competing for those carries. So I do think it's worth a little bit of a shot here. I don't mind. I don't mind the shot chasing, I guess.
That's why I said we're gonna come up with a name for these, and it's gonna be a long shot.
Yeah, maybe we should get the listeners to like submit the best acronym or something or phrase for those things, and like the winner can get like some PFF gear or some swag or something like that. I don't know. Send us some names that you think, because these are going to be the ones that you tell your buddies on Monday. You're like, oh yeah, Austin Walter. Yeah, I took him anytime. Who didn't? Yeah, screenshot that, right? Screenshot the bets.
Literally.
So.
Is there anything else though you like, Ben, on this Sunday slate for Week 14?
I mean, I gotta, George obviously isn't joining me on this podcast, unfortunately, but I do have to keep the quarterback rushing props churning since they have been so hot this year. So I'm going to give you 3 of them. You can maybe choose, what one you think is best, but I'm going to start with what I would assume is your least favorite and kind of work to your most favorite. So I do think Davis Mills over 4.5 rushing yards against that Seattle defense. I don't think that Seattle defense is going to have the same amount of success against the Texans offense as I saw last week with the Indianapolis Colts. So I like Mills to, potentially be able to, move the football at least NFL respectable rate. I do think 1 or 2 of those times, especially if the Seahawks, are forced to blitz a lot, I do think he's going to go over there. So I do think he can get over 4.5 rushing yards. Another one I like, Baker Mayfield, over 6.5 rushing yards. Baltimore's banged up defensively, especially in the secondary. Do blitz at a really high rate. So if they continue that trend, which I think is probably going to be the only way that they keep up, like the fourth best pressure rate in the NFL, I think it's going to come from that. So I think, Baker's going to have 1 or 2 opportunities to sneak around here. And I think if he's feeling dangerous, he's going to go over 6.5 rushing yards. So I like that outcome here quite a bit. And then maybe my favorite, Joe Burrow, over 7.5. Obviously, he's done it for us before. Got over 6.5. He didn't get over 6.5.
No, he didn't.
At 6. Yeah, that's right.
I bet at that.
The week
I know, because it was painful. Right. It was painful because he rushed twice, like 2 more than it shows, but it got called back due to penalties. So I was kind of pissed.
Right. That one was frustrating. I do think against San Francisco this week, over 7.5. That's a pretty good bet. So I like those 3 quarterback rushing props, but I got to know what one do you like is the real question.
Sadly, and just to let everyone know, I am a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. Grew up there my whole life before going to college, and it is so sad for me to say that I love the Davis Mills one the best. We go. 5.5. I mean, 5.5. That's almost like when we bet Tom Brady or we see Big Ben run for over 0.5 yards. It's fantastic to watch those guys run.
Right.
I know they are.
I know Tom Brady's up to 1.5 rushing yards.
I know.
Prop number here today. I don't necessarily love that one, but Davis Mills 4.5. I think that's a slam dunk. Let's go.
Yeah, I like that one a lot, especially at 5.5. I mean, and the Seattle Seahawks defense is just the same it's always been, trash. So it's perfect.
Right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ben. As always, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. We will see you tomorrow.